Hi, thanks for joining me. Today we're going to paint a set of cute little puppies. What we have in our kits is, of course, a pre-sketched canvas. You have a tray that we're going to use as a palette. You have some paints. You have 2 paintbrushes. Of course, you have this plastic to cover your surface and paper towels. Again, we're going to paint with dirty brushes, which means we're not going to do a lot of cleaning of our brush in water. We want to lay our paints out in this manner. It looks like a red, but it's actually called burnt sienna. We have a light blue, which is a cerulean blue, a black. We don't generally paint with black, but it's going to give us a color that we need once we mix it. And of course, white. I separate my white a little bit because I don't want to get these other colors in it, and that's called contaminating the colors. All right, we've covered all that. You have your space covered. Let's begin. Also, excuse me, you'll need just a small amount of water. Not much, but just a small amount. So what we want to do is we're going to paint our background first, but when we address the dogs or the puppies, we're going to go a little backwards. We normally paint the furthest parts of the painting, the distance, and come towards us. But this time we're going to kind of move around because of the way that these particular areas are addressed with the darker colors, and we may lose something in there. So we're going to paint a little backwards. All right, just take one of your napkins and kind of ball it up. We're going to do some blotting of the background. It's going to act as our large paintbrush. All right, we're going to use cerulean blue, this blue color, and we're going to use the black, very, very small amount of it, and we're going to use a lot of white. So we ball our paper towel up, not too small, but small enough to handle what we need. And we're going to start with the blue. That's quite a bit. I'm blotting it here on right here on my tray. And now we're going to put it all around. Not too much, but just enough. Just kind of put it around the background. So you have some background on the side. You have some background here at the back of the tail. Don't be afraid to touch in the edges of your subject, because that's what you want to do. It makes it look more realistic. Right in here between his legs, and see how I got some paint on his leg? That's fine. In between here also, I'm going to go back up here and get a little more paint and come down here. And the reason I'm getting it from off of here is I have more than enough paint on this background to do the job. I don't need any extra paint. So that's there. You see how I did that? Now I'm going to take just the smallest amount of black, not much. Just barely kiss that paint with that black. See that? Barely kiss that paint. So you can see through it. It's not much black on there. And I'm just going to lightly place it here and there to give me a little variety. And when I come back to the tray, I'm going to get this little bit here that I placed there. Just in there. We're doing that for 2 reasons. To create color harmony and so that we don't have to do so much work. There, that's it. Now, I'm going to take this paper towel. See, I still have the black on there and I have the blue. Painting dirty, of course. I'm going to pull a large amount of white off of there and immediately put it all over. And now I'll have more white than anything else. I'm going to go back into the white paint and get some more. And I'm pressing kind of hard and smushing. You can't see it because I'm smushing all out of the camera. So as you press, you can press hard and twist your paper towel. And it'll give you some interesting things. You can twist in one direction and twist back the other way. Back and forth. You see how it's blending and mixing for me? I'm going right into the edges. I don't want to go too far into the dog, just along the edges. Just along the edges. And then we'll do this down here. So you can tell it's has blended and mixed that paint so that it's not so strong. This is my background, so I'm adding some more white. Make sure it's between the dogs. You got to have it between the dog's legs. Right here is just ever so fine area for the background. I'm going to smush it right there. You can have some white spots here and there. It's okay. But we just want to address the black so that they look gray, and we want to address that blue so it's not so strong. There we have it. That's good. And that's all we need for that. I don't even need this anymore. I'm just going to kind of fold it on itself so I can get it out of the way because I get it all over myself. So that's that. And we don't have to do anything else to the background. That is set as it is. Let's move this up. I want you to be able to see the whole thing. Now we're going to do the eyes and the nose and part of the paws. So what we're going to do is take that small brush that you have, the small one. You're going to go into the black, straight black paint, and you're going to paint its eyes. Just do the whole shape. And it's like a little circle in between. It's like a crescent moon on one, circle in between. See how it goes? And we're going to do its nose. Now, when you do his nose, we're outlining the whole nose, but we're only going to paint the bottom half of the nose black. So the top half of the nose is white. And we're going to do the same thing to the big dog. His eyes are a little larger because he's closer to us. And this is supposed to be like a circle right here. Like that top piece and then a circle. And then the eye that's furthest away, we can't really see much of it. So we're going to put the circle there. And now we're going to do his nose. So do the outline of it, shape. You want to keep the shape, outline it. And when I say outline, you paint right over the line that's there. So when we finish, you won't be able to see these lines. Some of them you will, some you won't. They'll become a part of the painting. So now there is, if you look at it, there's a line right here on his nose from top to bottom, and then we'll paint the bottom section there. So the big dog has a view where you can see the side of the nose and the front of the nose. So that's where you want to paint that at. Paint that there, and then the little dog, we're going to put a little patch right in the middle of his head up here near the back. We'll give him a patch. Now we're going to wipe that off on the paper towel. And then we're going to take some white and put the white up here in this spot and on the big dog. You're going to do the same thing and the side. And I'm just dabbing and brushing. So it looks like this is a dark part under here, and then we have this top piece up here. And on this little dog, he is so small, so it didn't blend so good. So now I'm going to come back over on there. So that's going to give us a gray on the top, and it gives us a black underneath the bottom. I'm going to lift this up so you can see part of the white is still showing that I placed on there, but that's okay. See there, you don't have to get every little thing. That white paint shows up as highlights, and that's how you want it to look. So now we're going to put a little white on the eye here. So it's a round circle here. So we're just going to circle the eye with the gray. Circle it with the white and it'll make it look gray. And we're doing it because we want it to stand out, and then go over that top part. So the whole thing looks a little gray. We need that to separate out. You can go back and make these a little darker later, But for right now, we need to separate them out from the rest of the face. So we're going to make them a little grayish. Okay, wipe that off. And now we're going to take the straight black and we're going to address the paws. And so the paws have little lines in between the toes. That's all we're doing. We're going to trace the line down to the tip of the paw. That's all we're doing, so that we will not paint over it. And this one doesn't have that. We're just going to put it in there anyway. 2 lines, make it look like a paw. That's it. Now you can rinse that brush off in the water and set it aside. Great, great, great. We're trying to give those little spots, areas there, a chance to dry. Now we're going to get the other brush, which has a little angle on it. Now my brush may look a little different from yours, but it's still an angle brush. It's got an angle on it. Sometimes you can use this little point to get in spots if you need to. So we're going to go into the black. Get your black paint. And this spot here is dark. Even around his face, he's got an ear here and a face right there. So we're going to cheat a little bit. We're going to trace down here and go back in here with the paint. His ear is up there. We're not going to touch his ear yet. We're just putting this near the bottom. Remember, we made that eye gray. This is why we made the eye gray. So we'll be able to see his eyeball. So we just go outline the eye here under the bottom and paint that part. And we're going to do the same thing for this eye back here on the small dog only. So we're going to paint just in his face, right up to his eye. And right here. Perfect. Now we can even go so far as to do right on his mouth, which is it's a little messy, but the reason being is because we want to use that paint. Now we're going to just lightly wipe off that paint, and we're going to go into this reddish looking color, which is a burnt sienna. Once we do that, we're going to come up here and paint the ear. Now, when we're doing this, you can kind of squish it around and dab it. And then we'll do this one back here on the back. That big patch, he's got a big patch on that side. And what happened was this patch back here mixed with the black that I had on this brush. And that's exactly what we wanted it to do. So now we're going to paint in here, and I'm just smushing it around. You can tell the color changed. It's a darker brown in here, and that's that reddish color right there. That's why we're painting with the dirty brush. So it'll blend for us. Just kind of smush it around. That's his little ear right there. And we can tap a little into this black once we get that red on there. It's not a lot, but it's enough. And the reason we're tapping into the black is to change the black from being so dark and straight black. Now we're going to add that color up here. And we're going to get a little white on our brush. And add it right in here. Brush a little, tap a little. See how it changes? See how that color changes? It's going to do everything you need it to do. We don't want to have to do too much work. So now we're going to get a little white on the brush. That brush is still dirty. The brush is still dirty. And we're going to paint right here. This is his arm he's leaning on, and this is his body. We're going to trace that line. And we put just a little color on there. We trace that line. There. And underneath here, this leg, the bottom of the leg, right there. Now, right here on his face, you see a line right here where his little muzzle, I think they call that, trace that line too. See that? There we have it. And then he's got a back leg right here. Trace that line. And then wipe your brush off. We're going to go into the white paint, and we're going to paint on that line and pull it around the dog's paw. And down his paw. Well, should I say down around his leg and then his paw. And we're going to paint from that one leg where it goes around his body. We're going to round his face right here. More white paint as you need it. And come out. It's changing colors. See how it changes colors? That's what you want it to do. From this little mouth muzzle piece up, that's where that little point on that brush helps you a whole lot. And then we're going to go back here. This paw is going in the opposite direction. Or the white goes from right to left on that leg back there and that paw. Perfect, perfect, perfect. And now right here where his mouth is, you're gonna, whatever paint you have on that brush, you're just gonna come down from that line and come down like you're going under. It's under his nose. It's gonna be just a little darker, but it'll look different than the body. Okay, we wipe that brush off. Just wipe it off on a paper towel. And now we're gonna go to straight white. When you get this white, come up here at the top and brush down towards the rest of that paint. I lost my little divot that I had up there. I can always put that back if I want it dark. And we go to the outside of his body and his arm here and bring that white paint in. So it'll look like the light is hitting him on the outside. That's what you want. Just trace the line with the white paint and then go swipe it around, swipe it around. I'm not blending it. I'm not blending it at all. And if you look at it, it'll show you the shadow side of him and the side that the light is hitting. That's what you want. And the leg back here, we're going to put just a little white on his leg back there in the back. And we're not going to blend that at all. For that, we can touch that with our finger if you want. And right in here, you can tap it with your finger. That'll help it blend and get rid of the harsh lines. But it'll look like it's going to look like the back of his body is sticking out further than this big dog here. Okay, I'm gonna wipe my paint off and then come back with some white and do around this area. I got a little too much paint on my brush, so I got to wipe that off. You're going around that nose. There he is. That's it for him. Not quite, because I totally ignored his other leg, which is here. So wipe all your paint off. He's almost done. Wipe all that paint off like that. And we're going to get just a touch, not much, just the smallest touch of that burnt sienna. I just drug a little bit down. See, I don't even have much paint on that brush. And we're going to paint this edge just right under here, the edge of that leg right there. Wipe that paint off. See, I didn't have much on there. I wiped the paint off. I didn't have much on there at all. And now we're going to use white. Go around that leg. And it'll make some of that color bleed into that white. Just enough so you can tell something's different. Put a little bit of that color underneath him so it blends. It doesn't look so awkward sitting on that leg. Okay, that's that for that one. So now you can wash that brush off because we're going to go into the black. And we don't want it turning gray on us yet. So wash that off in the water and then dry that off. And we're going to do the same thing we did for the small dog, except now we're going to do it on the larger dog. Remember, the dirty brush gives us all these different colors in here, and it makes it look 3D and come off the surface. I'm looking, I already see where I'm gonna have to make some adjustments, but we'll do that on the end. All right, so let's address this big dog here. And we're going to do like we did before. We're using the larger brush. We're gonna put some black on it. So he has black. We're gonna put some black on his tail. He's gonna be a little different than that one. We're gonna put the black on his tail right there. That's where the black goes out on his tail. We're going to put a little patch of black on his leg here. Make sure I got his leg and not adding. I'll add some to it. It's okay. We don't have a problem with making adjustments. We don't want this area. We don't want anything to look flat. So we may tap into the black here or there and add some extra here or there just to give us that look we want. So here we're going to give him a little black. We'll just lightly brush a little black in here to break up this area. A couple of places. That's his tail there. Now we're going to go black around the eyes. Remember, he got this eye here and this eye here. So we're going to go black around his eye here. His eye is gray, so we'll be able to see the difference in his eye. And we're going to add some black around this, the other eye here. A little bit on the top of his head like we did the other dog. And then we're going to go here on his face. Let's go around here. He's a little bigger. Around that eye. And around that nose or muzzle. I'm going to put a little on his ear. Now he's got a leg right here, so we're going to add a little to that leg too, the right side of his leg. Wipe that off. We're going to put a little here. This is sort of detail between the paw or his foot and his leg. I'm just putting a line there, just brush a little there. You want to be able to tell the difference when we kind of look at it. It's got two legs here, so we're going to put this black right. I haven't dipped into the paint anymore. I'm just wiping off what's on my brush, sort of like cleaning my brush off on the painting. So there, we have that there. Now we're going to go into that reddish color, which is a burnt sienna, and we're going to put it here on the ear. Let's start up here on the ear, mixing that black with it. See that? It mixed that black right with it and went right on around the head. I'm gonna mix that black with it, and it changes into that dark brown color, reddish brown, and that's what we want, so we can get some variety in there. That's what we're looking for. We're gonna put a little up here on this spot that he's got, and I haven't dipped back into the paint yet. So where we have the black down here, we're gonna come down and trace that again. Separate the paw from the leg. We're gonna do it over here. We're adding this so we kind of lighten up that black and it's not so dark. That's what we're doing. It's just mixed up here and there. We're just mixing it because we don't want straight black on there. It gives us a chance to soften up some of the edges. That's what it's doing. We're not taking the black off. We're just making it sort of a darker brown. There, we have that. I'm wiping my brush off now. And we're going to go into the burnt sienna again. And we're going to go to this top section. Remember I said we got to hop around because of the way that it's structured. We're going to add just a touch of white to this. Not too much, it'll change it a whole lot. If we do too much white, too much black, it changes it in a way we don't want. So we're going to, it's not really straight here, but it's almost. That's where the head meets the ear. We're going to put the little white there and kind of shape that ear right there on the outer edge. Come here with the white again. Sometimes I tap. See how it changed that color? That's what we want to do. We'll touch up here. We don't want too much of that straight black color. I'm going to put that color over his eye here, around up there by his head. What will happen is it will, the black will take over. And so now we're going to take and put this brown down here again, where it lightened up on that back leg. That leg is kind of back out the way there. And then we're going to put some on this leg back here. There's a leg, these two legs separated. I'm just sort of cleaning my brush. I'm not really putting a lot of paint on there. Okay, now let's go back into this paint, that reddish paint, and we're going to paint this section. Let's start from underneath here. There's a little divot section here. Don't worry about that. We're going to trace some of that. Right here, we're going to trace it. See how we traced it? Coming up, we're going to come up and paint this. Outlining it. Like so. We're going to take a little white and come right in here. We're going to change it a little, not too much, just in spots. And we're working backwards. Normally we would do this, the white, because it acts like highlights. We'll do this now to keep everything straight. Wipe the paint off your brush. Okay, and then here we're going to add that reddish color. Like that. And now we need some black. Not too much, just enough. And we're going to start with the black down here under the belly. Trace that line down, just tap, tap, so it's not solid. And we're doing these strokes. I'm doing strokes upward and around the body so that I can change the color here and there. I don't want it one solid color. And then I'll just work this. Let me show you how I'm doing this. I'm just going back and forth, making lines. Because we want to get some of that dark brown going on. That's why we're doing this now. And we're scrubbing it like that so we can vary the color. We don't want it all one solid color here and there. Just kind of touch it here and there. I like that rich, that dark, rich, dark brown color. So we have to add a little bit more black if we want it to get darker in certain areas. And we want it to be darker underneath than it is on top. And then we bring that dark color up here and there. When it touches that white, it's going to lighten it up. That's why we put the white on first. We're working a little backwards, but that's okay. I'm looking at his head here, trying to see which colors are in his ear and his face here to put those colors back there. That's what I'm looking at. And there's some really dark, rich colors in here. I have that right there. And this light color is up here. I'm just tapping at it here and there. But I want that rich, dark color to come in patches here and there because he's got fur. And he can have a few black patches here and there, but I like that dark brown. And to get that, I put the black on and I'm coming back with some of that burnt sienna. And it's darking, making it darker. That's why we picked the black this time, because it'll give us that rich brown color that we can't get any other way. I love it, love it, love it. Okay, so all of this is dry, so I'm going to take what's left on this brush and go around here, trace that line again, trace this line, trace that line there. Now, wash your brush off. I know, wash that brush off. Dry the brush, and we're going to come back with some white. We'll start up here on the head. And I've covered up most of the that little mark I put up there, but it's there just to break up parts of the head. It's fur, so it's not going to be flat now. We're not looking for flat. We're working with the fur. So now I'm going to go, because that line is there and I didn't trace my line. Adding the white here. And it looks flat because I don't have a dirty brush. I clean my brush off. No worries though. We're going to add the white in here. And right there, I missed the spot on the little guy. And we're going to paint that leg underneath there. We're taking the white and going up that leg. And there's his little paw. I didn't completely take that line off. I want to leave some of that line there that was on that back leg when we put it there. And we're going to go down this paw, or excuse me, leg. And as I'm painting over this, it's picking up the paint. So I'm still stroking from right to left, going around the paw, around the paw. And then down the little paw. There's just enough paint on there to do what we want it to do. Just like that. Add a little bit more. And then I'm going to trace his body up here to where his mouth is. Because I'm painting with a dirty brush. And it's giving me just the right amount of tint in that white. So it's not bright white because this is under his body. I want this up here to be a much cleaner white than this underneath. And I'm picking up just enough paint to give me the look I want. And now right here on the top of his face, we're going to paint that up just in that one spot. And it gives us a little different color right there. Now we'll do this little patch here with what's on your brush. If you have to add some, add a little bit. Don't clean your brush. We need it dirty. So it's making the white paint dirty here and there, and that's what we want. I'm going to add some more white, and I'm going to do this leg here. And come down that leg. And then I'm going to just come into the edge. I have a little bit too much paint on mine. If you have too much white paint on there, it won't blend for you well. I had to take some off. Now you see how it's blending? That dark spots, making it lighter. Right underneath the bottom, just tapping underneath the bottom, because it'll be darker down here where his paw hits the ground. Right here on the back of his leg. But we go around the leg. We go around the leg. So it won't look like a solid color. And then he's got that leg back there in the back where now we're just gonna go ahead and paint over it. See that? So it's under his body. But we couldn't get that look if we have a clean brush. We need these dark patches here and there. The only way to get that is to have a dirty brush. I'm gonna paint the bottom of this paw. And then swipe that. That line is a little too dark. There we go. So now I'll paint under here where his where his mouth is. I'll put that paint right there, under there, because it would be darker. Make this a little darker right here. It's not much. I barely have any paint on that. Now I'm going to put a little more paint, not too much, on my brush, white paint, and paint his tail. I'm going to wipe most of that paint off, and then I'm going to paint up so that it comes into that black. But we painted that so long ago, so it's not going to blend well for us. Once I do that, paint up with the white, I'm going to come back with a little black. So to give me black, then gray, then white. That's what it's doing. That's just on the tail. That's why you have that little point on that brush. It'll get right in there for you. It's not solid either. So I made that a little darker than I wanted to. On the tail, it's got a little bit too much black on it, but that's okay. I'm gonna go back and I'll just add some more. That's all we do. One thing about when we paint, I'm gonna put a little black up here. I'm gonna switch to the small brush, because now we're just doing details. Wash that big brush off and set it down, set it to the side. Yeah, set it to the side. We don't need it right now. I'm gonna go in and trace that line. See that line? We're gonna trace that line. I'm gonna put a little black on it, just a little. Hopefully I got enough. Here and there, it's not much. I don't have much paint on it. And go up, that's his mouth. Go up to his nose. We're adding the details now. You can do the same thing for the little fellow. Just go up, it's his mouth, go up to where his nose is, and then come back down. Wipe your brush off. And let's get a little of that burnt sienna reddish color. It reminds me of burnt peanuts. And now we're going to trace the line, the black line, trace it. And do the same thing for this one on the little guy. You don't want it so dark, so we're trying to lighten it up just a little. If you think you need to reclaim some of the some of the lines between his paws, now is the time to do it. Not too much, just a little touch. Not much, just a little, because I painted right over him. So I barely have paint on this brush. Barely have paint on that brush. This was the thing I said earlier. It's kind of red in there and it should be a little darker. So I'm going to use that teeny brush again and go in there and trace his paw with just a touch of black. And that paw turns here. So we put a little right here because I want it to be sort of brown. taking some off because that was a lot. And I'm going to use the tip, that pointed edge of the big brush. Get a little white on that tip. And pull that color of that paint down, because that paw, his paw is really turned. And then run that paint along that line. And it's just changing that color from being so red. That burnt sienna was kind of taking over right in there. And wipe that off. Come back with some white, a little bit more white. Wipe that off. Now I made a really big boo-boo. We have a spot in here that's not painted. And I didn't notice it until we painted the big dog. So we're going to add some black with the large brush. And we're going to come down on that bottom. It's almost a V shape right here. His leg meets, back leg meets, and he's right up under the big dog right there. See that? Wipe that brush off. So that was black. And we're going to come back with that burnt sienna. So we're trying to get that dark brown color that we made over there. And we're swiping up all of that black around the big dog's mouth and up here. That's the body of the little fellow. That's him right there. And that's what happens sometimes. You miss little things until you're almost done and you just go back and evaluate your painting. Okay, so now we're going to take and do the shadow. We just take a little of the black and a little of the brown, red on our brush, and we're going to put it on the palette. Touch more of the black. We want it to the dark side. It's a shadow. We don't want it too dark though. There. And now we're going to do these little markings that are on the ground. This is the shadow that the dogs are making. Don't have to be perfectly shaped. I'm just going side to side, okay? Just side to side with it. And he's got a shadow here on this back. Needs to be skinny because that's his tail. And the big dog's making a shadow here, and he should be making a shadow here. Just make sure the shadow touches the legs. I have painted over my shadow, so I can't really tell you where the shadow is. That's why I'm just going side to side, because that's how your shadow is going to be. And the shadow is going to join up to the object that's casting it. That's it. It's called grounding your painting. Okay, I'm going to wipe that off, and I'm going to rinse my brush in water, dry off all the excess water. And right in here, we're going to come back with just a touch of the paint. You need to take away some of that hard line. That line's kind of hard. It's standing out. It's just a little too hard. So I'm just making it disappear, some of it disappear. That's it. I'm going to add a little more white to my tail since I took it all away. It looks more gray with a white tip. That's it. Clean your brushes. You're done. Fabulous, fabulous job. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you like it.